think Jimbo's that great of a coach. I know a lot of people do. I don't. His game day coaching is suspect to me.
That's it.
It's amazing to me. I mean, if your profession is to be a football coach, all right, like in anything else, we got into broadcasting. I mean, we should know something about how to do this. It doesn't seem that way probably to people that are tuning in and maybe weren't familiar with our work. But, there's something going on here that we understand is part of the pattern of being a professional broadcaster, believe it or not. Believe it or not, all right? But, I mean, you should know everything there is to know about the job. Whether you want to follow those principles or not, whether you want to practice them, whether you're capable of using them, whether you think they're all bullshit and you should just do your own thing, you should thoroughly understand, after years of being in the business, your profession. And I know a lot of this is subjective, and look, you have to make these decisions, like the thing with the Denver Broncos coach, Hackett, right?
I mean, come on.
Hackett, you got to crack it, man. He's now gone back in hindsight and admitted that trying a 90-yard field goal was probably a mistake, as opposed to going for a 4th and 5 with Russell Wilson, the guy that they brought in there for exactly this purpose. They didn't bring this kicker in to kick 65-yard field goals. They brought Russell Wilson in to help them win games.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Well, that could have been one of those statements in a sports talk debate show, huh? They brought him in here to help them win games. There you go. That's pretty deep. As opposed to the common wisdom, which is they brought the guy in there to help them lose games. So,
Exactly.
but, hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here on this fine Wednesday, the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, coming off a great evening. I could see why Mike Mayo last night. I attended a little social function with Mike Mayo, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And this was with his other ulterior identity as the man behind, well, he's one of the many people that are working with this Best of Del Rey app. Steve Dickstein, what a character, man. I love Dickstein. He was holding court last night. We were at a place in Del Rey called Bar 25.
Nice.
Bar 25. Well, what would you say? I don't want to complain about prices, but what would you say? I mean, what's like a reasonable price for a drink in a high-end bar? If you were getting like a name call brand, you weren't getting the usual Schlepp vodka where the guy just changed his oil and squeezed some of the remnants out and they put it in a drink and called it vodka. Tito's and soda, for example, would be what?
High. It's just standard vodka at this point, but
Yeah.
I think it should be 15 if you go to a high place.
Oh, 15. Okay, all right. Well, that's not bad.
No, if it's at a high place, if I'm going to a bar, I'm hoping it should be 8 to 10. But if it's at a nice place, if it's 15, okay, I get it.
I'm thinking
Okay.
$6.50. I mean, top $7.50.
Then that's not a nice place, though. You're not at you're at like a standard bar. You're not at like a nice bar. If you go to Las Olas or South Beach, it ain't $6.50.
Well, and this is one of those things that I really don't care for the drink ticket system when you go to a function and they give you a couple of drink tickets. But then there's a whole set of qualifying rules. I mean, there's no 3 knockdown rule, no standing 8 count. Fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final. Only the doctor can stop the fight, and the fight becomes official after 4 rounds. We go to the
college
scorecards.
overtime rules where they're like, the first time,
Yeah,
no extra, no 2 points. Second time, 2 points. Third time, only 2 points.
yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, yeah, and I didn't realize this, so I ordered a couple of drinks, and the Mustang didn't even want this drink. It turned out I ordered in error because she was going to drink some wine, and I ordered her like a Tito's and whatever it was, soda, right? So I give the 2 drink tickets, and then after the fact, the guy tells me that the drink tickets don't apply to call drinks. Okay. So, like, while my beer was on the drink ticket, that was fine. And so I had to shell out. It was only 13, though.
That's not that bad.
But it hit me hard. I mean, it hit me like an Alexis Arguello right hand. Like that shot that he hit Pryor with in the 12th round, and Pryor looked back at him and laughed in the Orange Bowl fight many, many years ago, my first year here in Miami. Unbelievable. And you're saying, how can a guy just shrug that one off? Impossible. But so it hit me a little bit, and then I realized, what's the difference, right? I'm pretty much drinking for free and having a good time. So it was great. But I did see, and our premise here about chasing younger women as you get older as a man. And one of the nice things is the sphere of influence that you have in terms of your ability to expand your social horizons while it shrinks as women get older, or it seems to. Because, in other words, I don't know. I mean, you'll see some 60-year-old woman with like a 30-year-old guy, if she happens to own like Cosmopolitan magazine or something.
There are dudes that like older women. I mean, and women's sexuality strengthens as they get old. It's like a cruel joke, but don't they get like more,
They're horny as hell.
well,
No doubt about it. But so are guys. Yeah.
Well, guys are always horny, but I'm saying women. I thought I knew that. Like it's a weird joke. Like as they get older, they get more sexually inclined. So it's so there are plenty of guys that are into older women. I mean, especially.
But think about it in general, though. I mean, it's a reverse order of business, and based on age, somewhat. Whereas Mayo at 56, if you did the math, which our system is, divide your own age in half. This is the bottom level of the age limit that you should be chasing if you're being realistic about your social life and any chance you have of having any
you want it to work.
Permanence to the relationship, right?
Shirley and I have an age gap, and there's a lot of things where it's like you really don't know what that is. But at least there's a common ground. A lot. She remembers.
She's much younger than you. Is that the deal?
Yeah, you know that Shirley's.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
You didn't realize Shirley was a Jesus. Well, good. That shows you how.
But you're in a category though, because you're what? Are you going to be 40 now, or are you 40 already?
27. No, I'm not doing anything.
Oh no, you're well within the range there.
I'm just saying that it proves her thing right. Like there's a big age gap. There are certain things, but she still remembers pay phones and phone books.
Oh
and AOL. There's still a common ground. If you're off by like 30 something years, there's a lot. It's really hard to like date. You can have some fun, but to like date, I don't know how
a woman has no idea what you're talking about. Anytime you mention 1961, the year that Maris hit 61 homers, and she's like, "Who's Roger Maris?" Well, that's a whole nother issue. But okay, strictly on age. All right, so the math would be with Mayo 56, 28 is half 56 plus 7.
I mean, 35.
So 35 should be the cutoff.
That's pretty young.
But I did see that this young woman that caught his fancy with a couple of texts, and then had him like his head was spinning like Linda Blair in The Exorcist. Yeah. As he was just even texting us saying, "Yeah, she called me back."
It's like a teenager.
Great, Mike. Why don't you ask her to the prom while you're at it?
Like, you have a kid who's like a junior in high school.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll give him this. You know what? He wasn't being unreasonable in dipping well below the number in chasing this woman, because she was there last night. She didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Mayo, but and I think he had already thrown in the towel on the whole proposition. Because he kind of jerked him around a little bit. And this happens when young girls take an interest in an older guy and kind of lead them on into thinking that there's something possibly that might happen there. I don't know if she thought maybe she could get a better job through Mayo with Dickstein and his organization. Not sure exactly, what her incentive was, except that, Mike's a good guy and he's a handsome gentleman. And he obviously is very well accomplished and well educated. But I don't know, does a 23-year-old chick really want to be with like a 56-year-old guy, unless he's a movie star, unless it's like DiCaprio or something?
Yeah, you got money. I mean, if they have money, they don't give a shit what the age is.
Okay. All right. But I'll give him credit. I mean, if he was going to chase like pure fantasy, it was probably worth the few minutes or hours or whatever that he agonized over the fact that he was too old to be with this babe. And that was my social lesson last night. It was great. But we had a good time. It was fantastic. I did want to go back. We have Tony Segreto coming on to go old school at 8 o'clock. And I'm moved to go a little old school myself. Because, see now, I don't know. How do you remember certain years or periods of time? When I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, we kind of remembered a lot of it by baseball seasons, where, and the 1960 baseball season will always be one that stands out for me because it was my baptism in degeneracy on a major scale. It was the first time. We used to pitch quarters. We used to flip baseball cards. We had dollar bets on this or that. But the first time I really dove heavily in, and I've told this story many times, and it's a true story. This is not something I'm embellishing or making up. Absolute truth. I can still visualize when I accepted the responsibility to book all of the action against the New York Yankees. Growing up in Brooklyn, all of my friends, I was a Yankee fan. All of my friends were Yankee fans. We were starting to get to the point where we were a little tired. The Yankees were winning all the time. They'd lost in 1959. The Go-Go Sox won the American League pennant that year. And what? Didn't they win the World Series? That was the Go-Go Sox, 1959 World Series. And that was a long time that they were really much of a factor. Louis Aparicio and that whole gang there, they were doing it the right way with all of the baseball fundamentals that were in play, stealing bases, which we do have to pay homage later on. At least mention the passing of the great Maury Wills. who kind of revolutionized the strategies of the game, resurrecting the art of the stolen base. Eclipsed 100 stolen bases. It was remarkable. And the legend of Maury Wills contains and should always have the incident where Roger Craig threw over to first base 12 consecutive times as Wills was on base. He was so intimidating as a base stealer. And the Dodgers' strategy was a pretty simple one. Wills would walk or bunt his way to first base, steal second and third, score on a sacrifice fly. Koufax would shut out the opposition, or Drysdale, and they'd win 1-0. And that was like a major Dodger development. That they would get that run, scratch it out in the first inning, and Maury Wills was a big part of it. He was a Gold Glove shortstop a couple of times. Had a real nice career. Hit 280 for his career. Amassed an incredible number of stolen bases. Surpassed later on by Ricky Henderson, and I think Lou Brock went by him also. Wow, and it was a very exciting time because when a base stealer got on base, and the whole complexion of the game changed. The whole dynamic of the game changed. So anyway, Craig throws over to first base 12 straight times. Doesn't get Wills. And when he finally delivers a pitch to the plate after 12 straight throws to first base, Wills steals second.
Yeah, that's great.
He had an incredible read. One of the very first things I did in my attempts to get into electronic media, I put together a little piece on my own with a Mr. Microphone about stealing a base with Davey Lopes, who became kind of the heir apparent to the stolen base. I kept that whole system going with the Dodgers there after Wills had retired. I guess he came quite a bit later, but not far enough away that you forgot about the greatness of Maury Wills. It was nice to have Davey Lopes in there, and I remember him talking to me about how the ability to read a pitcher's moves. What was so critical in that, and that was something that Wills dedicated himself to. I mean, he spent his whole time in the dugout studying pitcher moves, and he really was just tremendously adept at reading when the throw was coming to first base, and when it was going to be okay to steal. And of course, I would imagine that old Walter Alston had the green light out there for Maury Wills the entire time. But anyway, so in 1960, I remember, a lot of things that happened in my life by baseball seasons. I'm sure a lot of you older guys, same thing. So I remember the 60 season. They go to the World Series, the Yankees, and it looked like they're going to just own the Pittsburgh Pirates. My friend, who I've mentioned a few times, the guy that stole my bike, Richard D'Angelo, who was kind of like the Fonz of the neighborhood, put me up to booking all of the action of the 12 or 15 other kids that we knew in the neighborhood there that wanted to bet on the Yankees in the World Series. Now we're talking about 9-year-old kids here. Think about that. The magnitude, the depth of the depravity of my life.
I've heard this story many times, and I shake my head every time.
And I can still picture that there was like a marble stoop, and I don't even know if it was real marble, but there was a stoop that looked like marble, where we used to, use the stairs to play a game called stoop ball. Appropriately enough, and you would sit on this ledge there. Right? We had a lot of our discussions or whatever sitting on this ledge, and I remember D'Angelo had all of the Yankee fans line up on one side, and of the 15 people there, all 15 were Yankee fans. And then he pulls me out and he says, "DeForest is going to book all of your action on the World Series." So, I mean, these were nominal amounts of money, but, huge proportionate to the times. So I'm on the hook. I don't know, maybe, $50 in bets total.
Oh my
Buck
God!
here,
A
couple of quarters there. Right. Where was I going to come up with $50?
$1,000 now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Never. And, I was halfway to Queens when the Pirates came up in the ninth inning of that game before the Mazeroski home run. And that saved me having to leave home at 9 years old. I was going to be wandering the streets of New York City for months trying to come up with the $50 that I needed to pay these guys back.
Yeah.
Instead, I collected 50, and all of a sudden, I was a rich man. I was buying, hey, stop the Good Humor truck. Everything's on me.
Yeah, you're like buying around.
Collecting was another problem back then. That's one thing, the hard lessons in life that you learn at an early age. Collecting money from people, deadbeat kids that make bets.
Deadbeat kids.
Not the easiest thing to do. The reason I bring this up, is because that was a 60 season. And in 1961, everybody was infatuated with the home run chase to the Bambino. And Mick and Roger Maris were staging one of those wars back and forth, like you saw with Sosa and McGuire, as they were pumped up on steroids, chasing the very same record, which they would eventually shatter
both the clubs.
and render somewhat meaningless until today, where you now had Aaron Judge hit number 60. And it's nice to see the acknowledgement on this because you would think that Bonds and McGuire and Sosa never existed.
Yeah, they're acting
based on the euphoria on this. Yeah, there he is, Aaron Judge.
It's very interesting how they're treating it. Because something that's really true. I was listening a week or so ago, and he's like, look, I understand the asterisk thing, but then you have to put one by Babe Ruth because he didn't play against African Americans. You have to put one against some of the pitchers because the mound was a certain height. You have to put it against one side had DH, the AL had the DH, and the NL didn't have the DH. So, like, if we're doing asterisks, there was the 80s era where everyone was on coke. Like, if you're doing the asterisk, you can sort of do it in baseball many times over. So
every year, yeah. I'll say this. I had a chance a couple of times because I was at these games so early when I was vending and selling souvenirs at Shea. We were there so early, and the place, the central location where you got your supplies from at the stadium was kind of in the left field corner. So we had found a way. I don't know if we bribed somebody or whatever, but we used to go down into the Mets bullpen and fool around, right? So I was in my teens then, and I was very much immersed in pitching, and the mound. I couldn't believe the advantage it was to have the mound the level that it was before they lowered the mound.
Yep.
So I mean, if you take that into consideration, it might have been far more difficult to hit home runs in that era than it was once they lowered the mound, which made a big difference, at least for a while, before everybody just started swinging for the fences anyway, and the pitchers became overwhelming. And now, you have the situation as it is where you have a handful of guys that can hit 300, and that's it. Even more remarkable, though, Judge moved into first place in the batting average category. So he's already, you would have to think, I mean, no one's going to catch him in home runs. I don't believe anybody's close to him in RBIs in the American League. And he now is, I think, a point ahead or 2 points ahead of his closest pursuer in the batting average category. Luis Arias of the Twins, a first baseman, was hitting 317 going into play yesterday. The Judge's 316. I think Judge retained the 316 mark with the game he had last night. Hit a home run in the ninth inning. Yankees win in dramatic fashion. Wow, could you get any wilder than that? Where Stanton, your favorite player, Giancarlo Stanton, hits a walk-off grand slam. The Yankees entered that inning down 8-4. And Judge hit his 60th in the ninth inning to make it 8-5, and then after loading the bases somehow, Stanton ended up hitting a grand slam, and they won the game 9-8, the Yankees. So it was a big celebration all the way around. Be interesting, to see how people react and what level of recognition Judge's accomplishment gets, because he's also playing within the 162-game season. That was such bullshit on the part of Ford Frick. I don't know why they hated Roger Maris so much. The guy did nothing wrong. I mean, and as I've said many times, fans of the Yankees thought, well, he's hitting all these home runs, but he's only hitting 269. And they kind of put like a negative blot on accomplishment because his batting average was so low. People actually cared about it back then, and the Mick was usually hitting in the 320s up to 350s, and was still hitting 50 home runs in a season. And probably, I mean, he was right there. They were going dinger for dinger until the Mick got hurt late in the season and then dropped down in the race there. But interesting, how this is going. I did a little research on this, Lubie.
Look at you.
Believe it or not. And we're going to talk to Jason Cole here, get into some football in just a sec. McGuire's stats, he had hit 52 home runs in 96.
Yes.
He was probably on the juice before these other guys.
Oh, yeah.
And then he hit 58 in 97. So, and then in 98, he goes for 70.
Yep.
And subsequently hits 65, I think, the year after that. Sammy Sosa had like 40 home runs in 1996. And then all of a sudden, he pumps it up in 98 to 66, and then goes on, hits 63 the year after, and then 50 and 64 in the subsequent season. So he was sticking a needle in his ass, in that era. Bond's highest home run total was 49 in 2000.
Yep.
And then, and I think he must have started experimenting.
Already on it, exactly. Yeah. That's the thing is they always go by his highest home run total before that era, and it was like barely 40. It was like Hank Aaron's.
Yeah, he was like a 30-something home run, a year hitter, hitting 28, 32.
And then he jumps to 49, and then he jumps to 73.
01, he goes to 73, and then I don't know if he got off the stuff or they just weren't pitching to him anymore, but after that he hit 46 and a couple of years with 45. So, I mean, clearly you can see where all of this came to a head, better living through chemistry in Major League Baseball. So my tendency is to want to acknowledge 61 as a record. I know it's not going to happen that way, but it seems like there's a movement afoot because they're talking about the American League record, which Sosa, Bonds, and McGuire all hit their home runs and shattered those totals in the National League. But this stands as the American League record, and it's almost as if it's being treated as if it was the home run record. And I like that, Lubie. That's really old school. All right, we're going to come back in just a minute. Hialeah Park, I just saw this. Somebody hit for 60 dimes yesterday or in the last couple of days at Hialeah Park. 58,000 and change on a slot machine, on the Royal Reel slot machine. That's got to be the machine to play down there. They have many, many Royal Reel slot machines, but wow, I mean, people are hitting jackpots that are exorbitant. I mean, just absolutely out of this world, outrageous. It's fantastic. So 58 times taken down by some lucky patron at Hialeah Park. We applaud that.
Nice.
It's not a life-changing score necessarily, but wow, it certainly would make for a real good year, wouldn't it? To hit for 60 times. I mean, the Mustang hit for, what was that, 11 that time, and we were celebrating for months.
Yep.
Well, maybe about 3-4 days worth, but we had a good time on that money. It was great. 58,000 is enough where you could stack away 50, blow 8, and still, come away with a very, very significant score. So that's been happening. People are winning at Hialeah Park. And it's not just occasionally. It seems like it's an ongoing and frequent circumstance, and that's the place to play if you want to get your money's worth out of your gaming dollars. And, of course, they make it really comfortable for you with the players' reward system that they have there, which is phenomenal. So get yourself a player's card and then enjoy all of the great food and drink, the Champion Simulcasting Room, the Poker Room, all of the screens that are up there. It's a fantastic place on a Saturday, Sunday. You watch football, college, pro football, a lot of fans in there. You get that vibe going where and you felt it when we were watching the Kentucky Derby. That's the kind of feeling you get. It's nice to be among people that are surging with enthusiasm. And that's what you find at Hialeah Park. And they treat you like a champ every time you walk in the door. It's Hialeah Park. They're open till 3 a.m. on the weekdays. And then they expand it Friday and Saturday right around the corner. They'll be open till 5 a.m. They open up every day at 9. Make sure you make your plans and clear your social calendar and plan a visit to beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, coming back with Jason Cole, one of the top NFL insiders. He's got a new venture going, right? I always have to check on that. Because
Outkick. They usually Outkick the coverage. I guess they're not Outkick the coverage anymore. They're Outkick.com.
Outkick.com. Okay.
NFL commentary.
Very nice. Well, I mean, who better than Jason Cole? He's going to join us in just a few minutes here on the Defo Show. Later on, we go old school with Tony Segreto. I'm sure Tony remembers those seasons here. Thank God Maz hit that home run. That was an impossibility. I mean, you talk about the shot heard around the world. Never mind Bobby Thompson. That was it. That was a shot that I felt right up my rear end. It was unbelievable. I would have had to leave town. I don't know what my life would have been like, Lubie. I could not have come back home without the $50 I would have owed these several kids. All right, back with Jason Cole in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:24.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
The great Jason Cole joins us here on the show.
The more Jalen Ramsey you can bring me, the better.
No, it's great. I mean, you can wake up, it's like Manny Mota, wake up out of a dead sleep in a line drive into center field.
How many of your listeners know who Manny Mota is?
They should. I mean, you know what? We're all about the history.
No. Lubie. Who's Manny Mota?
He played for the Dodgers.
Dodgers. Yeah.
Dodgers.
I remember him
I know
as a
Manny
Dodger.
Mota.
He played for a few teams, like about 11.
I grew up liking baseball. Like I'm old soul, so I might not be the modern day millennial or whatever.
There's an old crotchety Jewish man inside the soul of one Mike Lubie. It doesn't matter.
Hey,
yes.
Yes, well, Manny, get off the bench. Special page, and it was ice. It was a mashugana.
It's now time for the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to have you with us here, the Defo Show, on this fine Wednesday. Old School with Tony Segreto coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. I'm Jeff DeForest. He's Mike Lubie Lubitz. We welcome back to the show one of our favorites over the many, many years that we've been doing this. And, a guy that had the wherewithal and, the fortitude to go ahead and challenge one of our arcane references and see if, run it by Lubie and see if he knew what we were talking about. The great Jason Cole joins us now with Outkick.com. You can find his NFL commentaries and insights, and we're fortunate enough to have him share them with us here today on the program. Jason, how are you? Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate you coming on the show.
I'm excellent. What's going on, Defo?
Good morning.
What isn't going on? I remember, and I thought of this as I was, trying to figure out, what's the best way to approach this with the NFL? And I remember when Jimmy Connors was making that big run in the U.S. Open, and it was so exciting, and he ended up getting to the semifinals that year at like 39 years old. And at one point, after a very emotional and a long point where he grinds it out and finally gets on top, he's at the changeover and he's looking at the camera and he says, "This is what they wanted. This is what they came for." And he was all excited. And I was imagining as he was sitting with Jeff Bezos the other day in that suite, Roger Goodell was probably thinking the same thing. Because could you get any hairier or wilder finishes or more thrilling conclusions to games than we've had so far first couple of weeks of the NFL? Or is this, just the latest edition of it? Because, the games have been so exciting for the most part.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful beginning of the season. There are an outrageous number of games that are decided by one big, gigantic play / mistake.
Yeah.
Like you have the 99-yard interception return and then the fumble return in overtime between Arizona. The 99-yarder was between Kansas City and the Chargers. You just don't see that very often. Then you see the overtime fumble return following Sunday. And there are a number of other games that have been like that. I mean, like the Dolphins game, which I'm sure we're going to get into much deeper, is as ridiculous as a game as I've ever seen. Where one team
was so one-sided.
Right. Well, where one team just completely melts down, and with good reason. I mean, they're just guys are banged up and injured, but you just don't see it very often. That's all, and it happened along with these other games.
No, it was great. And look, I'm one of those guys. If I was playing a sport and unfortunately betting on a sport, you don't like to ever feel that you're totally out of it. I'm looking at the Dolphins being down 3 touchdowns late in the third quarter. And I remember saying that, people I was watching the game with, if they could put one on the board here, maybe they have an outside shot coming back in this ball game. But, the thing that we've been talking about forever, Jason, and you were a part of this when you were covering the team, they were exciting when you were covering the team here in town with Dan Marino. They haven't been exciting for a long time. But, we were hoping that this would be the case, that with the addition of Tyreek Hill, maybe a little bit better offensive line play, some improvement and better use of Tua and what skills he has and emphasizing what he does well. And then, of course, the development of Waddle, who was sensational last year, but looks, every bit the part this year, that at least they'd be exciting. They were electrifying in this game. Maybe it was against a dead bunch of defenders with the Ravens, but, I mean, that's a welcome change. Would you agree? As far as Dolphin fans go, definitely reason, springboard for hope that maybe this will be, the turnaround that we've been looking for forever.
Look, I texted Armando Salguero at the end of that game. We were kind of going through games, and I texted him and said, that's the most impressive offensive game they've had since Marino retired.
Yes.
And you would have to probably go all the way back to his final season. There was a game at Indianapolis where they put up 40-something points in the fourth quarter, him and Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning in his second year. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's before before a fair number of fans were born. So it's been a long, long time. So since they've had a game where you just said it was fun, it was electrifying, it showed promise, and there's something bigger. It wasn't just kind of. I mean, this was a little bit of a fluky game, but they got legitimate playmakers where just everything came together, and you go, "Wow, that was awesome to watch." And that's a game I will remember for a long, long time. There's been a lot of being Cleo lemonized over the last 20 years.
Where's Dr. Fauci, man? We got to fight that.
Yeah.
John Beck, Rosenfels, Lemon. I mean, the list is
Gus Perot. I mean, nice guy.
Schminks.
Yeah, right. Like, like really good guys. You like them personally. They're good dudes, but there wasn't a lot of je ne sais quoi.
No buzz.
There we go.
Well, and it's interesting, and I'll even leave the Tua thing alone for now because a lot of people, and you can say it was one game, it was really impressive, and it was really one quarter. I mean, it was the fourth quarter where he and that Dolphin offense went insane. So fine, people still want to see more. I'll give it to you. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks go hot for a quarter. But to me, the interesting part is the big question mark was Mike McDaniel. How would he handle adversity? And it feels like he handled it really well just within that one game. What did that game mean to you when it comes to Mike McDaniel?
Look, he's got some ideas, and he's got a will and a spirit, and it's fun. Now I've seen this routine from some other coaches, and it didn't end well.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it doesn't end well for coaches, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the odds that you're playing. So it doesn't matter. You can be a Bill Belichick clone, and we've seen a fair number of those, and fail. Or you can be a Mike McDaniel. Who would be a guy like that? A lively guy on the sideline.
Carroll,
Jerry Glanville.
Maybe Glanville.
Pete Carroll's got that, that energy, and you can win championships. Like, I just think that McDaniel is authentic. Like, I don't. That's the dude that you see there. That's who he really is. And if you're authentic, you got a shot. If you're putting on airs as a head coach because you're trying to convince people that you're a leader, you have no shot. You just don't. And so, McDaniel has a shot. He is who he is. He's going to call games the way he's going to call games. He's going to have fun with it. It's going to be sometimes a little goofy, but I think the players respond to him. Will it be something if he's a successful head coach and 15 years from now, is he going to be quite like that? Probably not completely. But there'll always be sort of a spry side to him. And frankly, look, I like coaches who don't take it too seriously. I prefer that because it's not really supposed to be that serious.
Based on what we've seen so far, two very impressive performances by the Buffalo Bills, dominating on the road the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, and then just really a laugher on Monday night against Tennessee. Should Dolphin fans, in spite of this miraculous Cinderella Man type of comeback, should they be getting out the plywood and the shutters and putting them up, to protect themselves from the bitter disappointment, the wave of disappointment that might come and befall them on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills? Or is this a matchup that you can envision them winning?
I don't think that Buffalo's invincible. I think they're invincible right now.
Okay.
And that is, they haven't gotten banged around a little bit. people haven't figured out what they're doing right at the moment. Like they're playing with about as much energy as humanly possible because I think they were out to prove some things in the first couple of weeks. And that is, they're out to prove that they are a serious Super Bowl contender. And that's great. But that level of energy is really hard to maintain over 18 weeks and then into the playoffs. So we've seen a lot of teams start with this kind of energy. I mean, the Patriots did it recently. The Ravens did it, I think in 2000, what was it? Maybe 2018. I'm trying to remember when they did this. And, just hammer teams in the first 2 weeks of the season. Everybody's like, oh, my God. Look, neither one of those teams won a Super Bowl before. And I'm not saying that the Bills can't win a Super Bowl because they certainly can. But I just think that they've got a little bit of an axe to grind with some people based on how last season ended, and they want to prove themselves. And I just wonder, how long does that edge hold up? Maybe it'll hold up for a season. It usually doesn't. That would be my one observation. Like even the year in 2007 when the Patriots were pissed off at the entire world because they got accused of cheating, right? And they were hammering.
Imagine, yeah.
By the end of the season, if you remember, the game against the Giants at the end of the season was competitive. And the game against Baltimore was competitive, and then they end up losing in the Super Bowl because it's just so hard to maintain. And it's still one of the greatest seasons in the history of the league, going 18-1 and almost winning a Super Bowl, but they didn't win a Super Bowl.
I think Bill Belichick also was found to have possessed several classified documents that were originally located in Mar-a-Lago. I wouldn't be surprised if he was indicated in that scandal as well. Speaking of,
he definitely possessed Dave Wanstead's all of his whatever game tapes that they made.
And his playbook,
and basically Dave Wanstead's brain.
I was gonna say.
All right. Well, now we have a number of teams that have been impressive at the start. The Kansas City Chiefs off to a 2-0 start, and I thought that they would have some kind of drop off. You take the main catalyst to their offense and the key bailout guy for Mahomes, who's known to make these circus plays, which kind of backfired last year. It looks like I don't know. Do you see? Was that a fluke last year when all of a sudden Mahomes was scrambling around like a maniac, like Fran Tarkenton, and instead of having a positive result, it would end up being like a clown play. But that doesn't seem to be the case so far this year. I mean, they look, very, very sharp offensively. Of the teams that are at 2-0, the Buffalo Bills, I think, have been the most impressive. Who has impressed you the most?
Look, McKenzie's been good, but they usually could have lost the game against the Chargers. Now, they hammered Arizona in the opening week of the season, right? It was good defensive performance, and they played good defense against the Chargers generally. But I'm always suspicious of teams that win games on 99-yard interception return.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't happen very often, right? So I thought they got outplayed in that game, and I'll disagree with you. I thought their receiving core was really pedestrian. I think that Richard Sherman made some really, really good observations about how the Chargers were sitting back and saying, you don't have anybody who can beat us on the outside. We're not concerned about you, and that should play out over the course of the season. Now the Chargers are pretty supremely talented. So that makes a pretty big difference. I would say other teams that are impressing me. The Dolphins, I think, have been terrific compared to what I thought. But we've discussed them. Detroit, really, they're 1-1.
Yeah.
That win over the last weekend, that was a really pretty complete effort. And so maybe the Dan Campbell, the Danimal thing is working. Another guy who is authentic. He's very authentic, right? I just don't. But there's having fun and being energetic, and then there's being a troglodyte. And Campbell takes it to a level that, while I think, football is still a smart man's game. It's a tough game, but it's a smart man's game. You have to be pretty intelligent to play this game. It's not like baseball. I mean, come on,
There's only so
those
much.
guys are not geniuses on the baseball field. Let's just say that.
Run to first base. Why would I want to do that?
Exactly.
Yeah. There we go. But I would say those teams are the ones that get me pretty, geeked up about what I've watched so far. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Indy's been terrible. God, I can't understand how that team's been that bad so far. I mean, I know Matt Ryan has his prime, but that's a huge drop off. And for 7 quarters, Baltimore looked pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That 8th quarter wasn't so hot. I'll say that.
Well, and you sort of jumped on one of the teams. What I wanted to say was 3 teams that I'm intrigued by for different reasons. The Colts have a lot of talent, and they keep switching out the quarterback, hoping that'll fix it because there's talent everywhere. And they keep sort of getting worse. You just said I don't know what to do with the Colts because I look at that team in that division and think they should do real well, especially with the Titans feeling they're dropping off. And I don't know what the hell is going on with the Colts. The Raiders, another team that have a lot of talent. And I get that division's a freaking monster, but and they've had a tough, schedule to start, but still, I don't know. I just feel like they haven't been what I thought they would. And then the Niners the other way. All we heard about was Trey Lance all off season. And then a week before the season, magically they re-sign a Garoppolo. Lance gets hurt, and it's almost like the Niners are happy he's hurt. And they're now happy with Garoppolo. Those are 3 teams that for different reasons I'm very intrigued by. You are a Bay Area guy, so I want to start with the Niners. If Garoppolo was a guy all along, then what was the offseason?
Well, he wasn't supposed to be the guy. That's not what Kyle Shanahan. Okay. Kyle Shanahan wanted Trey Lance to develop and be the guy.
Okay.
The problem that Trey Lance has is he's not developing very quickly, right? It's not happening for him. And he's not a very accurate thrower. And then on top of all that, he's a running quarterback who, guess what? Those dudes get hurt.
Yep.
And so he had, some really bad luck. So they're completely comfortable going back to a guy who, say what you want about Jimmy Garoppolo. And as I said after the game on Sunday, he's hot, he's sexy, and he's really boring as a quarterback. But boring can win.
Yeah.
When you have that defense and that running game, all you want is a guy to kind of stay out of the way for the most part. Yes, you would like to have a Tom Brady who can make 3 or 4 critical throws in a game. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy on a consistent basis. He might make 2 or 3 throws, but when you ask him to make the 4th or the 5th one, that's where you're going to get a ball thrown to the wrong team, or you're going to wing it way out of bounds, and you're going to sit there and say, what the hell happened on that play, right? And, that may stop them from winning a title. So, look, the 49ers are still a really interesting team because they are loaded. Bosa is a man, right? He's a beast. The problem you have is this is an offense-tilted league, and so teams are going to score. You're not going to face Seattle like you did on Sunday every week, where you feel like you're watching a really good college team trying to compete in the NFL. That's just not what you're going to get every week. So, yeah, that team concerns me. What were the other?
The Raiders.
2 of them.
The Raiders, and I get it. They've had a tough schedule. It's not like they played slop, but they're 0-2.
The Raiders are just look. The Raiders are a creation of their own dementia, right? It's like they still think we're the Raider name. Slap the Raider name on us, and we might win a few close games. They won maybe 5 or 6 games that came down to like last possessions last year. And those games, as to make a gambling reference that, of course, Defo will appreciate.
Greatly appreciated, yes.
Is the roll of the dice game, right? And when you win a lot of those in one season, guess what? It tends to even out over time. Winning games like that, it's hard to be great in close games over a long period of time. Some teams have done that. Bill Belichick has been extraordinary in close games over a long period of time. But Bill Belichick highlights small strategy, small ball, more than any coach in the history of this league. He's just an expert at it. Don't do things that get you beat, right? So when you eliminate that, you eliminate the chance to lose in tight games. Right now, through 2 games, the Raiders have done a lot of things to get themselves beat. And you kind of look at Josh McDaniels and go, okay, you're a great offensive play caller, but didn't you learn the whole sort of mantra of being with Bill? And it's not all about play calling. It's sometimes about making sure you do little things. It's like I go to the Baltimore game, and everybody made a big deal about Lamar Jackson being awesome last Sunday, and he was.
He was great, yeah.
Right? Like that's a lot of big plays and game-changing plays, and he hit guys in stride early in the game. But in the fourth quarter, when he had to hit a down and out on a second down, he couldn't do it, right? And that's a play that you got to hit for a first down so that you retain possession so you don't lose. It's not a big play. It doesn't show up on a highlight film. It's just the down and out, and you got to leave the ball outside. And instead, he left it inside, and the defender nearly pick-sixed it, right? Yep. And then he misses on the third down play on the scramble to his right when he throws it behind a guy. And I know there's a holding call that's going to call it back, but you have to hit the play to force them to take the holding call so that you can at least get another third down. Yep. See if you might somehow get a first down, get the pass interference or something like that to end the game. And so little things like that add up a lot over the course of the season. Games come down to 1 or 2 plays.
Jason Cole, Outkick.com, with us here on the Defo Show on South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. All right, I wanted to touch on a couple of things out of the NFC because we were talking about top teams. Tampa Bay also off to a 2-0 start. They were struggling with New Orleans and then eventually pulled away to win by 10. Of course, there's always going to be a spotlight and a lot of conversation about Tom Brady and where he's at and whether Giselle is in his head and, how it's going to stack up the rest of the way. The guy that surprised me, and when he was lifted for Tua in that Alabama championship game, and that's when Tua put himself, into the public eye there with a sensational last-minute pass to pull a game literally out of Nick Saban's ass. And I wouldn't have given you too much chance for Jalen Hurts being a top pro quarterback. I was surprised he was drafted as highly as he was. Didn't really see this kind of emergence. And yet, all of a sudden, he's being spoken of as if he was a second coming to Joe Montana with Philadelphia. And they're off to a good start and seem to be everybody's darling now to be a Super Bowl contender. What did you make of Jalen Hurts coming into the league? And are you also surprised at the level of efficiency that he showed in this ballgame on Monday night against the Vikings?
I think my first observation based on your statement is the seeming impossibility of pulling anything out of
maybe a couple of polyps. That would be about it.
Right. Well, no, I mean that's a pretty tight. I'm not particularly familiar.
Yeah,
with it,
that's a pretty tight ass. You're right. That's inconceivable.
That's a tight man. Okay? Right. You need it, not one tow truck, but probably a couple of them.
Yeah. Laser surgery won't do. You're right.
Yeah. So that would be observation number one. Number two, look, I didn't think that. I remember once texting Brian Daboll about when he was at Alabama as the offensive coordinator at the time, and talking about how they covered up a lot of his deficiencies.
Yeah.
His footwork wasn't particularly good. His release wasn't great. He was too run happy, all those things that we talk about, right? And so, yeah, I'm really surprised. But then I texted with Doug Peterson. This is a story that's going to come out on Outkick. So he teased one of my columns.
Nice.
He just said the kid has an amazing will. How did he put it? Let's read you the quote from Doug Peterson from last night. He's a winner. I'm telling you that he will overcome any criticism of him. Great kid. Nothing bothers him, and he thinks he's the best player in the league. So you're talking about a guy who's incredibly headstrong, and has a will to work at it. So you take those things along with, look, he's obviously athletically talented. He needed to refine things like footwork and release and all that to make himself into a better player, and he appears to have done that. And I think they've won 7 of their last 8 regular season games with him as a starter, and he's posted a quarterback rating of over 100 in 5 of his last 9 games. He's turning a corner, and that Monday was a whole lot better than that Monday night national championship game that you were referring to in the second, right? He was terrific. And, it's Minnesota and their defense isn't very good, but it's still professional football. And when you go, 26 out of 31 for 333 and do all that, you've taken some huge strides.
Yeah, and he ran for a couple of touchdowns also in that game. The other thing I remember very distinctly about that championship game with Alabama was when he was lifted, he didn't sulk. And maybe this, is parallel to, what you're saying Peterson's comments were. He really, handle himself. You're saying, wow, what class and dignity this guy has. He's in there, trying to help Tua and cheering, and it had to be a bitter disappointment to be lifted from a game in that spot and sort of cast into the light of being a failure. And yet he seemed as euphoric as Tua was, that he had this success. So, maybe that's an impressive thing about his character that helps him overcome some of these deficiencies. All right, Lubie tells me, and I didn't know this, Jason, but it makes sense that you were close to Maury Wills. Is that correct? He passed away yesterday. Did you say that?
Well, Maury was he's an honorary member of the tribe. He's Maury.
Mount Wills, yeah.
Maury, and he chopped it, and you do that Baltimore chop thing where you get on base and stuff like that. But the ball.
Oh, but you're a big Dodger fan. You're a big Dodger fan. I know that. I mean,
I'm a big Dodger fan. Yeah, I'm absolutely a huge Dodger fan. Maury's just a little bit before my time. But I certainly read a lot about Maury, and I'll say this. Probably a few guys reinvented themselves to make themselves an impact player the way Maury Wills did. Like, I've seen, who is that crazy player that the Marlins had early in there? Chucky Carr, remember?
Chucky Carr, yeah. Had great teeth. Unbelievable. Great teeth.
Right, and then there's there's been a ton of guys like that in baseball history. The Eric Yelding, who nobody remembers, but I do, because I play way too much fantasy baseball. But like Maury Wills was a guy who dedicated himself to do whatever it took to get on base and create havoc, and then use his speed, and was technically just a superior player. And I think a lot of people forget that. They think he's just really, really fast. That's why he's got all those stolen bases. Yes, he was really, really fast. But really dedicating himself to the art of how do I make my limited skill set, not much power. I'm not real strong, but I'm really fast. How do I make that work so that I can have a career? And he did that. And I still remember that when he was managing in Seattle that one year, and they wiped out the chalk lines. Or no. You can look it up. They put the chalk lines for the batter's box in the wrong place intentionally.
Oh, yeah. They had it a foot in front of home plate.
Right, or something. It was something crazy that Maury did so that he could help his hitters get on base. And the fact that he didn't know the rules, was kind of funny, that he didn't know that you couldn't do that. That he couldn't change where the batter's box was supposed to be. But I've always said that's a dedication to the art of what Morey knew he had to do to make himself competitive. You change the parameters of the game as much as humanly possible.
Well, and that was the typical Dodger rally. We were talking about it earlier. We mentioned Wills, where Wills would either walk or get a drag bunt base hit, steal second and third, score on a sacrifice fly by Willie Davis, and that was it. It would be 1-0. Koufax would shut out the opposition, and that was your Dodger formula for victory. It was fantastic. No, but a very influential player. Yeah.
It was like an hour.
Right. Hour and 45 minutes. This is a dream. That's what
And the time today, 2:29. Yeah, we're out of here in time to catch the freeway before it hits heavy traffic. Jason, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll look forward to the articles coming out and all of your reporting on Outkick.com. Great having you on the show, as always. Real entertaining couple of weeks of the NFL so far. So hopefully that'll be a trend that continues. And we'll talk to you again real soon, my friend. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Be good.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Very good. Jason Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, what I meant
Outkick.com.
was that comment we always played before him was
the Maury Wills comment.
Era. So it wasn't on Maury Wills. It was on what the hell?
Oh, it was on Manny Mota, yeah.
Manny Mota, but I at least for me, I thought that was the same era. So that's at least close to Wills. But yeah, he's a huge Dodger fan. So I figured you could at least get into it a little.
Wills, very impressive. He was one of those ball players that you couldn't wait for him to get. Like, I was a huge Lou Brock fan. For a brief period of time, I had an affinity for the St. Louis Cardinals. I loved their uniforms, with the thing and the birds on the bats. Yeah, that was fantastic. And my dad grew up in Missouri, so I had a chance to catch a game in St. Louis. But I just loved Lou Brock. I mean, he was my favorite leadoff hitter. And Wills wasn't in Brock's category, although he was Brock before Brock. Brock had more power, and Brock was more inclined to drive the ball into the gaps there and end up, on third base with a triple. And was a better hitter overall because he did have that power, and he drove in some runs also. But the speed was great, and so I was a big fan of that era and that style of play. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess nobody wants to deprive somebody of three swings that missed the ball by a half a foot, because you don't see. I mean, the stolen base leaders are leading the league with like 35, 40 stolen bases now.
They don't want to take the chance at losing the base. They'd rather you strike out than they're like weird about it. Stealing bases. They feel like you just took a run off the board. You were on
Puts
base.
a lot of pressure on a pitcher, though. I mean, have to pay attention to this, and the catcher also.
It makes the game more fun. Knowing a guy move, it adds movement to a very boring game.
And stealing third, generally, if you talk to most base stealers, was easier than stealing second, because you can get like huge jumps and also big leads as well, and especially now with shifts and things like that. You would think that this would be a huge factor in a game, but somehow it's gone because, as we were joking, people don't even run to first base anymore.
Nope.
Much less, think about, in putting the steal into the equation. But you would always want the opposition, any way you could pressure a defense, whether you're talking about the pitcher himself having to be conscious of what's going on, or the catcher calling balls and strikes, or pitches, calling for pitches in a different fashion because there's a guy on base. I think you want that influence, no? Wouldn't that be as important as having, a guy go 1 for 5 with 1 home run in a ball game, in a losing effort? I don't know why that's been eliminated from the strategy. You would think people would be even faster, too. That you would have more guys that were capable of stealing like 60, 70 bases in a season, but you don't see it anymore. All right, Tony Segreto is going to go old school with us. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. I would imagine Tony has a pretty fond recollection of that 1961 season there with Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, and a great depiction and considered by all in the critical area of trying to dissect what the media has done with certain stories. Everybody thinks that Billy Crystal did a marvelous job with that 61,
that was great. Yeah.
Including getting Barry Pepper, who looks like everybody, to be a dead ringer for Roger Maris.
Yeah.
And what was the guy's name? Jane. What was the other actor that played the Mick? And he looked just like a young Mick.
Thomas. Yeah, he actually did really look like Mick.
But it was weird too, because Barry Pepper then looked just like Dale Earnhardt, and I mean, he could have looked like Kaylee Yarborough too if they wanted him to play him, whoever it is. Al Capone, Barry Pepper, man, it doesn't matter. He looked exactly like everybody, but he did a great job in that film, Billy Crystal. It was a really, really excellent sports piece by any standard. All right, coming back with Tony Segreto in just a moment. Old School, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. I'm Jeff DeForest. He is Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Got to get Tony down to the Big Chill when we finally set that up.
Yes.
Johnson's Big Chill. It's 8:01. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
All right, back into the time chamber here. Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, the soon-to-be new homeowner, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and the handsome gentleman that just popped onto your screen here on our live video stream here on South Florida. Live, the great one himself. With his Yankee hat on, appropriately so, the great Tony Segreto joins us here on the show.
I haven't wavered all season now. You have to admit that.
No, you're a diehard fan.
Even when we had that little losing streak, but man, oh man, how exciting was that last night in the Bronx? What a week this is going to be. What a week. This just brings back so many memories of Maris and Mantle in '61. This is just, and I couldn't be happier for what, from what everything I know, a nicer guy who just carries himself with great integrity, and I mean carries himself like a Yankee, and love them or hate them, the Yankees are iconic with their stars. I mean, just I was at a meeting yesterday, and to get to the meeting, you had to park in one of these garages, right, where there are like 89 levels of garages, and we get into the elevator, and a buddy of mine says, "Gosh, I forgot where I parked." And I looked at him and I go, "I never forget where I park in these places." He goes, "Why?" I go, "I always park Mickey Mantle, man." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I always park on level 7."
Even if like level 2 is empty?
Yeah, even if level 2 is empty. And because I know I would never forget. But we started going through the numbers. I mean, what other athletic organization has, 3, 4, 5, 7, all these guys, these iconic numbers. I think of George Costanza's first child is going to be named 7. It's just the whole thing is, and then I rarely do this, and forgive me for going on like this for a moment, but I rarely think, like sit here and think of my career. I rarely like go, oh my gosh. But moments like this, when I think that I had the opportunity and how blessed I was to spend time, not just interview them, but to spend time with Mantle. Spend time to where you sit at a bar and have a couple of beers together, to spending time and getting to know Roger Maris. I shake my head and just thank God for all of the great things that I was able to do during that period of time.
The availability of sporting goods, in my recollection, was nowhere close to what it is today, where guys are walking around in authentic jerseys and things of that nature. And I do remember our punchball team. You're talking about the iconic numbers, which it was a 3-man squad. That was kind of how you lined up in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
3 guys on a punchball team. So you had 2 infielders and a guy in the outfield. And you were playing on the street or on the sidewalk, so it was a narrow territory to cover. But we had to decide who was going to be 7, who was going to be 8, who was going to be 9, because they came out with this new innovation where you could get these numbers that you could stencil onto a T-shirt.
Yes, I remember those.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. It was like, wow, we're going to have numbers on our shirts here. So you'd have a white T-shirt, of course, with the sleeves rolled up, sometimes with a pack of Camels in there, even though we were
Absolutely.
like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I was always Yogi Berra. I always took number 8, and there was a big battle for who was going to be 7 or 9. And this was right around that time. I remember that season just being absolutely magical, and it was a year before the Mets came into existence, and we kind of shifted our allegiance from the perennial powerhouse to the lovable losers, because it was just more fun to get involved in the pure and raw comedy that the Mets were, with all of these old geezers and Caesars that they had on the roster. But I was one of the guys, and I was one of the few guys that was kind of rooting for Maris to be the guy. He was not that popular of a Yankee figure at that time.
Too.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a diehard Mantle fan. He probably was the only.
I loved him, Mick, too. Who did?
He was the only athlete I met. I can honestly say this, where I became, Ralph Cramden, hamana, and I had to really right myself quickly, because, we were taught, we were taught never to be in awe of your idols, or, especially guys you grew up with. But, for him to single me out, for him
like
to
when Lubie was salivating over Bobby Bowden when we had him on the
show. Right.
He was foaming at the mouth as he was trying to ask a question.
Even Ali and guys like that didn't bring, as much as I admired and respected them and loved them, and knew where they stood in history. Right. I knew that. I never lost my cool. But man, when I saw Mick, it was like, oh my gosh, I just kept saying to myself, don't blow it. Don't be stupid. Don't blow it. Don't be stupid.
Imagine if the Mick didn't drink. What his career would have been like.
Well, not
all of those guys, for that matter.
What if his knees were good? Just on and on. But regardless of any of that, it was still a great career, magical time. It was our form. We hear of Camelot all the time, and it was our form of Camelot during those days, because there was nothing quite like, taking your transistor radio and then putting it in a book, and then, cutting out the size of the radio with a small knife, and being able to slip that radio in the book so that you could bring the book in the class, close the book up and turn it on. And every once in a while, just lean down like you're putting your head down and hear the game.
Yeah,
it
was Mel Allen booming out of every textbook in PS20.
Absolutely, it was magical. It was absolutely magical.
Yeah, it was great. And I remember being in like Hebrew school, and the rabbi would be going, "Baruch atah Adonai, the Yankees are up by 1, Maris home run." And he was listening too, while he was, in shul. It was pretty incredible.
It was
all right, and that was a great year. Now I'm feeling this from you, Tony Segreto, and it wouldn't surprise me, because I kind of feel this way. as when the juicers were blowing by these records and obliterating pretty much the most meaningful numbers in baseball history, which was largely based on its numerology. I do remember in '98, it was very exciting. They had that same thing going. Well, we didn't realize it at the time that it was being fueled by some foreign substance being supplied, at the Balco Labs by Victor Conti. But nonetheless, when Sosa and McGuire were in that battle, that was exciting. And now you were still, I don't know if you were doing, you might have moved on the news by then, but
I was still doing, but
that was like headline stuff every night.
Yeah, it was. But gosh, looking back, this is pure. This appears. I hope I'm right, but it appears to be pure.
Judge does have a rather impressive physique.
He's a big ass.
Yeah.
Well, I just hope to God.
Not saying anything, Tony.
No.
They do test once in a while.
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, who would have thought? And we have two guys now. I mean, and Pujols could be.
Well, what happened to him? That one I question. He woke up from the dead, man. This guy's.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder about that. But Judge, I honestly, I don't wonder about it. Only because I'm hopeful that the past has laid the groundwork for them not to do something stupid. But I may be wrong.
The funny thing about it, though, is with the testing that they do, which obviously, they feel is satisfactory to keep the game clean. And, and there is evidence just based on the numbers themselves that, that the steroids certainly are less involved in the game than they were when everybody had a syringe in their ass when they came to home plate. Yeah. But as you
or in their hand, just giving it to themselves. Then I mean, goodness, yeah. Like hold, wait a minute, hold on, boop, give me a second. Wait,
it's crazy, but
yeah.
It does seem like this record is being recognized as the record. Now they're qualifying it. It is the American League record.
It would be
because just oddly, Bonds and Sosa and McGuire all happened to play in the National League when they were hitting these home runs in these numbers. But as you look at what this guy is doing, it looks like it's being accepted as if this was going to be the definitive, season-long home run record, which looks like he's easily going to surpass.
Yeah, and I think certainly for Yankee fans, it's going to be the Yankee record. It's going to be you have to understand, diehard Yankee fans that. To us, that's the only record, which is wrong. I totally get it. I totally get it. But you think more about.
I never really acknowledged Bond's record, though. I mean, it just
I didn't
seemed
either.
so funny,
I never acknowledged Bond's record. It's interesting because those guys were so obstinate about it that it became even like. Even if they wanted to ask for the contrition, I just never felt like it
was like questioning the Trump administration people as they go before like Capitol hearings.
Yeah,
and they go potentially like those steroid hearings.
Bars like I don't know
nothing about that. Yeah,
he's not only changing the bed, he just like got a new bed.
Sammy Sosa, who had been in like a Doublemint gum commercial where he was saying, "This is my favorite gum, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you what, every time I line up to play ball, I chew several sticks of these," and then all of a sudden he doesn't understand a word of English. It's like what? Yeah, Sammy needs an interpreter for every question. Well, and that's good, clean fun that's going on there with Aaron Judge. And it's interesting because the other guy that had a sensational game, who was betting on himself, didn't negotiate a contract. And and what if the Marlins are all in? Has Bruce Sherman said he'll do anything it takes? There will be no stopping him from signing Aaron Judge as an unrestricted free agent after this year. What do you think? Comes down and plays for the Marlins?
I don't know. I don't know. Would you want to do that? Come on. I'm sorry, but leave New York. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, it's not happening.
And no, of course not.
Well,
how fitting though? How fitting is it that this week the Yankees are home? So this is just going to be. It is going to be absolutely nutty in the Bronx. It's going to be crazy.
It was funny too to think about it. It was well depicted in that 61 by Billy Crystal.
Such a great movie.
The mixed bag that surrounded, and it was kind of like a Twilight Zone type of day when Maris finally popped for 61. And, that there wasn't even a full crowd, not even close to it. I think there were like, 20,000 people or something.
It's not going to happen this week. It's not going to happen now. No, it's not going to happen now.
Yeah, I had an unfortunate incident during that '98 season. You can appreciate this, Tony, because I had been part of a little season ticket package with a couple of other guys from the inception of the Marlins, and we happened to luck out. I don't know, is Don Smiley. Remember that guy? Don
Oh yeah,
Smiley
very
was
well.
like a Huizinga henchman who, seemed like a pretty good guy. And we had done some work for him. We did like a video for him, my buddy and I. And I think because we did this favor, we got favorable treatment when they drew the lottery numbers for the season tickets in the first year of the Marlins, which was 1992, I guess, 93. 93. All right, so we draw two seats, which we bought for every game, right behind home plate. And there was a founder section. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Very
you
well.
had to pay some kind of premium. It was like, nominal by the times, where it was like $1,000 or something. But we skipped that, and we actually were as close as you could be without paying this premium for the tickets. And I remember in '97 when they won the World Series, I was at Game 7. I had those seats. You could see the spin on Al Leiter's breaking ball. From where we were sitting. It was a fantastic place to see a Game 7 of the World Series.
Yeah.
But then in '98, nobody wanted to go to any games. And for whatever reason, I decided to keep the season tickets one more year. This must have been an old school baseball instinct where you never gave up on your team.
Ever.
But, I mean, it was ridiculous to invest this money to see, what essentially was going to be, just a losing bunch of dreck. So I was running a contest, and I had to come up with a prize, and I decided to give away some of these Marlin tickets. So I thought I had found the most meaningless game, to give away as the prize in this whatever contest it was. I just grabbed them out of a drawer, and it was for the game where McGuire came to town and hit like number 59 or whatever, 58. And some schmink, some toothless schmink that was, in the crowd that day ended up going. He scalped the tickets. He ended up telling me, and he got like I don't know, like $1,000 for him because everybody wanted to go see McGuire. So I would imagine it'll be outrageous, to see Aaron Judge and get in because everybody's going to be in wild anticipation of the record tying and record breaking home run.
I know I told you this. I obviously did not see 61, but during the 61 season, I went to a number of Yankee games where I saw Maris hit home runs in that year. So it's pretty special. I'm going to be excited to watch this. It's going to be a great, listen, this is what a great couple of weeks we've had in sports. I mean, no matter where you look, whether it's baseball, NFL, college football, it's been remarkable. The excitement, and great athletes, great performances, just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Do you remember too? I mean, one of the great parts of that Maris 61 home run story is that the fan that caught the ball, offered it back to Roger Maris.
Yeah,
and they asked him, do you want the ball back? And he said, yeah, you know what? If he can sell it and make some money with the ball, let him go and do it. And I think the ball sold for like $5,000.
Yeah.
And the guy that had it was like a real New Yorker. I mean, he had the look and everything, and he was pictured with the ball. And that was how Maris was. He was so humble.
Yeah,
he just said, "Hey, let the guy go make a buck off this thing. It'll be great." All right, now we're going to get into a bunch of stuff with Tony here. Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurant is going to join us here in just a few minutes on the show.
Is he with us, Lubie? Is he there?
Yeah, he's going to be with us in just a sec. And we have the Hurricanes game against Texas A&M. A little deflating for me. I would have to say I was somewhat disappointed in that performance.
I was there, and I was there.
Oh, that's right. You were there. So save that because the atmosphere was incredible. But let's bring on Ed Garcia from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. Ed, I was going to lay the 50 points with Michigan, and then I thought that's a little bit much. What they win, like 59-0 in this game against UConn? 59-0. You must be on cloud 9, my friend. How are you?
It was perfect. You should have saw it. Fourth quarter, Louie and I got put in. It was great. I only got a reception, I was off the end zone, but everybody got a chance to play. I loved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, let's talk about what happened to me this past week in Texas because it was remarkable what Ed Garcia did for us.
Oh, nice.
We went to the Texas Roadhouse in College Station, Texas, run by one of Ed Garcia's dearest friends, who apparently is a legend within the Texas Roadhouse family. There is a table designated that the day of the game at this Texas Roadhouse, the Texas A&M mascot eats at that table.
Oh yeah.
And the mascot is a dog.
Yes.
And the mascot looks like is a collie, just like Lassie.
What does he order typically?
So the table actually has over the top, the name of the dog is Revelry, and over the top of the table says Revelry's table, and there's pictures of Revelry all over the booth. Okay. And you talk about having a legendary dinner. It was remarkable, and the place was hopping. And Ed Garcia, I cannot thank you enough. You provided us an opportunity to spend some time with your great friend, and just he's so involved with Texas A&M, and he was really kind of the highlight of the weekend. His love for the team and the way that place was jumping, and the food was magnificent, just as great as you could imagine.
Well, that is so awesome to hear. I'll tell you, Brad is such an incredible person. And I got to meet him. Well, I heard his name for many, many years. College Station, has a reputation all on its own. But looking at the volume that they do and all the big wins that they have, it was really cool a couple of years ago. I got to walk through that restaurant and kind of see it through his eyes, one by one and station by station. And it was absolutely incredible. But his genuine heart, care, and concern, we talk that we are a big family. He truly emulates that. And it is such a big deal to do that. That's one of the many reasons that great Texas Roadhouse is such a great place to work. And it's people like Brad Abgar that continue to just make Texas Roadhouse awesome. And by bringing in some really, really, really awesome people, then those really awesome people make really, really awesome food and legendary margaritas.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what
Tony. That's great to hear.
Well, what I noticed was this. It had been a while since I've been there. The service was remarkable, and people may go, "Well, yeah, but you were there with the owner." Blah 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 blah. Even the guy I was with said, "I said, I said, did you look around? Did you look around to see how quickly people got their food after they ordered, and how diligent and efficient the server was? It was incredible." So for those of you who go, and I know sometimes there are long waits, use the app. There wasn't a soul in that line who was getting into that restaurant who didn't have the app, and they didn't have to wait long. Everyone I spoke with, just offhand, that they didn't know anything about us. We asked them what they thought. This was their stop the night before every home game, and they just love Texas Roadhouse. So hats off to you guys, and thank you for making the weekend special for us. As it was special just to kind of be in that kind of atmosphere, but it was a great experience, Ed, and thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I encourage anybody to come into their Texas Roadhouse and find out who that owner-operator is. We like making our family a little bit bigger. Enjoy that legendary food and that legendary service. We're here to take care of you and make your dining experience awesome.
Yeah, we see 6-0 before a real challenge there for Michigan.
Yeah.
6-0 looks like it's in the books, my friend. So you'll be, on that same euphoric streak. I think for at least the very perceivable, future. Ed, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. When are we doing that lunch? We got Tony in town here.
Yeah, we gotta. Ed, I'll get a hold of you later today. I'm actually heading down to Miami to host a big event for the next couple of days. But I'll get in touch with you, and maybe we'll do it at some point next week.
Let's do it.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Sounds good.
And I have to tell you, the guy I was with, he had never even heard of Texas.
What would you
Roadhouse.
have? Did you have the?
I had my salmon that I normally have.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because Brad had actually recommended it there, but the guy I was with had never heard of Texas Roadhouse, had never been to Texas Roadhouse.
Interesting.
And when he got there and he ate the food and everything that we got he was wowed. Absolutely. He lives in Miami. He didn't even know Texas Roadhouse was in Miami. I mean, absolutely wowed. The service was remarkable, and truly just a great experience, and absolutely great. And I urge everybody, it is a special place. It's just fun. It's fun. It's just a fun, comfortable place.
You get the sense too. I mean, it really is. I mean, you can hear the thread through the company is all very positive.
It is.
And they all have the same approach. And people always talk about chain restaurants. This is one of those cases where what you have at the top is a reflection of what you get all the way down to the person that's bussing tables and washing dishes. They all seem to have the same approach, which is very, very nice. They're all 100% dedicated to what they're doing there at Texas Roadhouse.
It was one of the highlights. I have to tell you this. I had been at Texas A&M before, but it had been a while. I just was not impressed with the campus. The campus was very cold and stark. Bricks, and it was like a concrete jungle. I didn't see a shade tree anywhere to be found on campus.
Nothing, huh?
Secondly, did they
even have people that attend school, or did they just have the football team there?
There was no energy on campus the day before the game, and I have been to
really. Wow.
Yeah, no energy on campus. I'm not going to go so far as saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. They really don't know how to tailgate. They don't know how to tailgate.
Is this Tony Segreto? What happened here? Have you been hacked, Tony?
No. I'm so excited to go to these places because I want to see what they do. I'm used to going to places where they the tents are set up for tailgate, where they've got their satellite dishes and everything. I mean, there were a few people with TVs and stuff, but it wasn't like over the top.
Usual atmosphere, right? But how come it's so electric inside the stadium?
In the stadium, it was dramatically different.
107,000.
It was 107,000. I'm going
Screaming.
to tell you this again. I've been at stadiums. It was loud, but I've been to louder. It was loud. I am not going to say it wasn't loud. It was loud.
Yeah.
On the field, it was extremely loud and impressed. Listen, their cadets, the way their cadets perform, the band, impressive. It was an interesting weekend there. As for the game itself, here are my takeaways. We found out that we really need help on offense, and I mean, when you think about it, did you look at the statistics? It was crazy. I mean, I don't want to be Tom Olivadotti, but I'm going to sound like him. Statistically, we had more offense than they did. We held them. We just couldn't generate any kind of consistency on offense. We couldn't stretch the field. And when we had the opportunity to tie the game, we just didn't have
couldn't catch the ball.
No. Yeah. And again, it goes back to, I mean, when you start dropping early in the game, it sort of sets the tone, and you've got to be able to get beyond that. But I didn't listen. We didn't get pushed around. We didn't get our ass. Miami didn't get its ass kicked and blown out. The game, they stayed in the game. We found out exactly where we need to be, and we have to understand this isn't a flip the switch. We're great all of a sudden. It's a process, and Mario's got to get his guys in, and I think this is going to be a great program again. I think this program is starting to get resurrected. I came away with a much different feel and look than a lot of people did.
Very odd to hear Tony Segreto trashing anything, including the campus life.
I'm not trashing it. I'm just saying it was
tailgating, the lack of buzz.
It was.
Thank goodness you got to.
It wasn't just me.
Okay, well, and I know we need to go to a break, so I'm extending the thing I actually don't want to extend, but I'm going to anyways. Did it have anything to do with the week before? I mean, because
I think maybe some of it did. Yeah. I really do. I think maybe some of it did, and they thought that, here comes Miami. Miami's has been struggling. That may have been it. I don't know. But it was funny. It was sort of like, okay, we're gonna be, until we get into that stadium, it's just gonna be a normal day, and then once we get into the stadium, we're gonna go, crazy. And they did. And they did go crazy
through the TV. Yeah. I mean, you could feel the pulse of that place shaking.
It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. But I thought, and that's the other thing. I thought Miami handled the noise pretty well.
Yeah.
They didn't. Again, I hearken back to Gary Stevens, and saying my job depends on an 18-year-old going over the middle and making a catch in front of 107,000 people. And, how many eyes on you on national TV, the only game in town at that time. So that goes to show you, I mean, some of these kids were like, wow. I mean, you could tell them, you can practice them, you can put the noise in, but when it comes to actually it happening, it becomes a whole different ball game. So, again, I come away with a very positive, excited look about how this team is going to be in the future. I really do.
I couldn't help but think, and we'll probably have to use one of this quote may appear on tomorrow's Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. My favorite Gary Stevens quote, when asked about the ineptitude of the Miami Dolphins offense, this offensive coordinator said, "You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit." Classic Gary Stevens. I mean, still, I remember being there when he said it. It was like,
in his mouth.
You can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah,
That's kind of how he said it. Yeah, it was great.
He put Frankie, man.
We can't make any money unless we go to this break. So, we want to sustain this whole thing, because it's great being with you guys here on South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, that's Mike Lubie Lubitz. The handsome man down there at the bottom of your screen is Tony Segreto. It's Old School with Tony Segreto, and brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. We spoke to Ed Garcia, and always a pleasure to have Tony. Also brought to you by Catholic Health Services. We'll be back with more Old School with Tony Segreto in a moment, and we'll find out if he did it. Because I'm curious to see if he actually did it. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
What did I do?
I thought you might have done it. It's 8:32.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
All right, we have the Gambling Gourmet with us, Mike Mayo.
Well, yeah.
Does your bookie have an app, though? Everything's on an app.
No, he only deals with me.
Well, I mean, what did you do for this man? Did you break him out of prison?
Say, what does that mean?
What did you do? Did you get him off some rap? He was with El Chapo. He was about to do life, and you called an attorney on his behalf.
What happened here? I'm like Costanza with the password for his bank account in that episode. I'm going to go to my grave with that.
Exactly.
Wow, I mean, you do get very generous odds. I would have to say. No, I mean. That would be all anybody that was a sick degenerate like we are could ever dream about is getting better prices than anybody else. Various ball games. So we'd still find a way, we'd still find a way to lose.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
I have to issue an apology to my dear friend Francesco, whose action I've been booking for the last several years, college and pro football, as I often accused him, after listening to that clip, of getting his lines out of the Jewish Journal, which was about a week behind, any realistic line that was out there available on any game, and it was always in his favor. But he's been much more realistic in putting the numbers out, and now acknowledges the hook, which he always rounded off in his favor as well, which you can imagine what an advantage it is. But nobody has a bookie like Tony Segreto. Which, the discrepancies in what other people are suffering through trying to get their teams home, and cover a small point spread.
It helps being Italian.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. All right, I left the audience in suspense here, and it's Old School with Tony Segreto, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services, as to whether or not you did it. And we don't. I'm assuming that you didn't. You're too classy and dignified of an individual to pull a stunt like this. But
the Fisher move.
We thought you might wear the Appalachian State shirt into the Jimbo Fisher conversation that you were going to have. Now, did you get to sit down one-on-one with Jimbo?
No, but
before the game.
You
didn't? Okay.
No. It's very funny.
Did you have the shirt on that day?
No. But we were on the field after the game, and needless to say, there was this. It was like, the air was let out of the balloon. Like everybody was like, whew.
Yeah.
Because after that muff, when the muff happened, the fumble punt, it was right in front of me, and here's Miami's opportunity, right?
Yes.
So there was this side of whew when the game was over, and the field was just being bombarded with people, and it was crazy. And me and the other guy from Orange Bowl was we were on the field, and people are just running off and taking pictures, and all of a sudden, and Jimbo's being run off and escorted. He's surrounded by Texas State troopers.
They always have the Mounties there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that?
But all of a sudden, he spots us, and he stops, and he comes over and says, "Hey, man, great to see you here. We if we're not in the playoffs, we hope we're in your game. And how'd you like that game?" I mean, I was like, we looked at each other going, wow, he was the most benevolent administrator that we had met all weekend.
Wow.
It was crazy.
So he knew he dodged a bullet there. I mean, the Canes, that was what was disappointing to me, Tony. I mean, you had a chance, a real chance to win that game. Obviously, Texas A&M was vulnerable.
Absolutely did. And I'm sorry, you can be disappointed all you want, but I think there's a reality here. You have to go into this game with a reality that
you had me so pumped with hope, though, Tony. I mean,
there's no reason not to have that hope, because I thought that they did what they could do. They learned a lot, and I think we're going to see a different grown-up team as we go down through the season. I really do. I look at it in a much different way. I look at to see where the growth was, and have a reality and a realistic look at what Mario had to do to get to this point. I want you to put yourself a year ago with the same team, with the same coaching staff. What would have happened? I guarantee you it would not have been nearly as competitive. Guaranteed.
Well, I wasn't thrilled with it. I mean, I know they had to overcome a couple of fugazi kicks there by their place kicker. Could have put them in a better spot. And, drop balls, though, the failure to come through in key spots. If Tyler Van Dyke was a Heisman Trophy candidate and that was going to be a signature game, he had to win that game. Otherwise, that 40-1 that I was thinking about taking on him to win the Heisman certainly was going to be a rather worthless proposition bet. And, I think in that game, he might have taken himself, OOP, as they used to say in dog racing, out of the picture in that race where we had a chance maybe to spring forward. The way you had me pumped up for this Hurricane season, I used to know the Hurricane
not to be
team in detail. But, I felt like I was Lee Majors walking in the Studio 54 with Farrah on my arm back in the day.
Oh, and listen, don't put this on me. I was pumped up too. And I was hoping that, we could get a win. But my realistic view going into this game was I want to be competitive. I don't want to be run out of the stadium. And we were competitive, and we weren't run out of the stadium, and we didn't play well.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, if you tweak a little bit of this and a little bit of that, I think we're going to, I think you're going to see this team grow as the season moves on. I really, really, really do.
Let's back to the bakery this week. Another cupcake on the schedule here. So the Canes heavily favored, have a chance.
Yeah, they have an opportunity. Yeah, and you know what? How about we have to mention too here what's going on up in Tallahassee. I think what we saw from Mike Norvell again this past weekend, and what Florida State overcame again with a backup quarterback. We'll see how they can perform this week. They're going to be on the stage again against Boston College on Saturday night. So
heavily favored against a weak BC entry this year, Florida State. Imagine being at Lubie's house though when they brought in this what's the guy's name, Robillard or something, whatever. Rudemaker.
I hate Rodemaker, so I wasn't mad or anything. I hate him.
Who do you like? You don't like Norvell. You don't.
I like Norvell. I'm just honest. I like Duffy. The true freshman has way more talent than Rodemaker. But look,
how do we know that? Because of what you read, or have you done because of what you see?
You followed him in high school.
First Duquesne, they both came in, had the same amount of snaps. Versus Duquesne, Rodemaker threw an interception versus Duquesne, and Duffy led and the only movement they had was on the ground. Duffy led a scoring drive by throwing. and running and making plays. Duffy's a better quarterback, but he's a true freshman. Rodemaker showed why Norvell and the staff, even though all of the fan base hates him, why they believe in him. Maybe he's not great, but the kid made like 4 or 5 throws that were like,
Amazing.
okay, Rodemaker, okay.
Amazing.
Like,
See, here's where coaching really comes into play, because now these kids find themselves in a much different arena. Everybody's telling them how great they are. They're patting them on the back, and how do they handle that? Do they prepare the same way? And this is where I thought Norvell after the game was great. I thought Mario after the game was spectacular. I thought he was honest, and you saw his intensity. So it's curious to see how they perform, whether they're heavily favored or not. How they perform against Boston College. Can you stay consistent? And then our neighbors up north in Gainesville, I don't know who the heck they are. I don't have any clue.
They should have lost that game. That was horrendous. Like they play USF, and this is not a good USF. This is a bad.
No, it's not. It's not a good team
at home. And look, what's funny is they put up over 30 points, so it looks like their offense was good. Their offense sucks. I mean, Anthony Richardson, all these people kept doing the Heisman stuff. He doesn't have a passing touchdown yet. They're through 3 games, and he doesn't have 1 passing touchdown. I mean, and Napier's supposed to be this offensive whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that they're in bad hands. I actually like Napier. I don't know. And look, okay, and that's the one thing I want to say about the Canes. Look, you and I talked about it last week. Canes fans were getting ahead of themselves. Cristobal has been very honest. He actually sounded very much like Norvell, where he has hope for the future, but he wants people to realize I'm picking up a mess. It's going to take time. My only issue with what I saw and what I've seen with Cristobal and what I heard about his offensive coordinator hire, Michigan wasn't sad to see him go. Like, he won the Broyles Award, but Michigan fans were very happy to see Gaddis go. And what we've seen so far, you have this big, strong, strapping quarterback, but you're dinking and dunking. You're making throws that you're having Van Dyke run, which is not something in his skill set. And then you're being conservative when you can't. Like, they were down 8. Like, they were down multiple scores. Why are you settling the first field goal? I get it, but that second half, it was like Sperano was out there. And I get this team is not where they want to be, but we've seen Cristobal do that his entire career. That's my problem is when I was tempering Canes fans' expectations for Cristobal, I wasn't hating on what he could be as a recruiter. But as a coach, this has been him. He wants to do 1970s football.
We'll see. Yeah, I get it. I understand.
That's what scares me.
You're not the only one that said that. You're not the only one who said that. And we'll see. I do think a lot of the play calling on Saturday night became more and more dumbed down because our offensive line was being kind of blown off, and Van Dyke didn't even have time to go deep. So and our receivers really need to work. So we need to get receivers. So we'll see. In the meantime,
The whole thing.
We have you could be as deflated as you want.
No, it's early.
I feel like one of those footballs that came out in the game against the Colts with Tom Brady.
And then what are we going to see on Sunday with Buffalo coming?
I don't know.
Man, oh man,
that'll be good
for that.
I did want to ask you this. One more thing on college football,
sure.
Your impression here, because I thought this. If the Indianapolis Colts couldn't score against the Jaguars on Sunday, could they have scored against Georgia on Saturday?
No.
That's a remarkable thing that they had their entire defense go in the first 15 players of the first round. And I mean, they look invincible so far. I know it's not against big time competition yet, but wow, that's very impressive. Very impressive.
They're really impressive.
Look way better than Alabama did. After watching that.
They really, really do. They look faster. They look stronger. They look the part. They actually look. I have to tell you, I don't know if we've chatted since then, but I saw Greg Stanky again, at the Texas A&M game, and I interviewed him last week.
That's your guy now, man. You and the SEC are as entwined as any two entities or people could be.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I saw Sankey and I go. I said, "Who wants to take the restraining order out on who?" Since we're seeing each other all the time. But he's quite the guy, and the love they have for this guy throughout the league and it's going to be interesting to see how he navigates this with now getting Texas and Oklahoma and that whole deal. But I'll tell you, it's going to be an exciting season. Georgia looks absolutely invincible. You're right, but I think I love watching all these other teams that are coming up. There hasn't been a game that hasn't gone down to the very end. I mean, did you watch the Cuse game? Man, oh man, that Syracuse game was an incredible.
We have a quarterback.
Incredible game.
We have a quarterback,
and I love the coach there. I mean, it was a great weekend to watch football
all the way around.
It was fantastic, and now. I get this sense after last week and what Tua did and how we played, with Buffalo coming to town, it sort of harkens back to those days of Miami and Buffalo. And we'll have to see how we perform. I'll tell you what, the Bills are.
They look good. That was very impressive. Week 1 and week 2 so far. They are coming off a Monday night game and going on the road the ensuing week, which is a tough spot.
Yeah, it is.
I would think historically
and going into
throughout,
the heat, and going into
the league.
Heat,
yeah. So we'll see what happens there. And the Dolphins, you have to feel, are in there at least with a puncher's chance to be competitive after what they did in the fourth quarter against the Ravens, who may have been out of gas. Catholic Health Services, I mean, they never run out of gas, man. They are fueled by an energy that you don't see in the healthcare industry, Tony Segreto. And I am so happy that you turned me on to Catholic Health Services at a time where, wow, I mean, we were going into like crisis mode, trying to get information about my mother and her condition, and there was no way. I mean, we had like no contact. There were like walls between us and the actual health care of my mom at a literally critical time in her life. And then Catholic Health Services came on the scene. We got involved with them through Stu Schiffman and all of the wonderful people there, and that couldn't have been. It was a night and day difference, and made the experience so much easier to handle at a time where you're really worried about somebody and their health. I mean, just great people to deal with. Catholic Health Services,
amazing, absolutely amazing. We call it step and repeat, where they get up and they do it, and they get up and they do it again, and they get up and they do it again, and they match what they do every day, and in many cases are better than what they do every day. And we're talking about not just great therapists. Who know what they do from a expertise sort of view, or doctors or administrators. We're talking about people who have a certain compassion matched with passion that they do this with. When you can involve the family, when you can bring them all together, including the person you're rehabbing or that's in the hospital, in the center for whatever reason, when you can bring them all together and you lay out a plan and you lay it out with concise expectancy and with passion, and you get to know them and you get to understand them, and they ask the family what this person was like before the incident, whatever that incident might be, to get to understand where they were, to get them to where they could be again. I think it's remarkable. It's the holistic approach. It's going to be, mind, body, soul. We're going to get you back together. And they're doing it not just for the patient, but they're doing it for the family too. And they're doing it for the family's expectations when the patient gets home, what they can expect from them. And if they need help, they call Catholic Health Services and they are there, Johnny on the spot. I cannot express to you enough how wonderful these people are. Again, it's not just the expertise; it's the caring that they have. It's the understanding of the family. I can't repeat it enough, almost ad nauseum. But if you want great health care, and if you want great service, and you want communication every single day, as many times as you want it, there's one place to go, and that's Catholic Health Services.
Communication skills are unparalleled in the healthcare industry, and they take you step by step through the process and have you well informed every step of the way. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, more with Tony Segreto. We'll get his thoughts on this Dolphin comeback, which was remarkable. There's been a debate out there, kind of a topical thing that's been circulating around town. Tony, we'll get into with you in just a sec about. Was that the most exciting regular season game that you've ever seen? I know which one you're going to say was that, and I would agree with you. But we'll come back.
Be that Bears game.
Yeah, more old school with Tony Segreto in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that it's 8:50. The Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
By the way, you sound great. I don't know how good I sound, but you sound
good.
great.
You sound
great.
really good, Tony. Better than I've ever heard you before, really. Even when we were at the regular radio gig there with the Comrex and all the fancy equipment that we had. Lubie set this up last night with a bunch of tape and a couple of paper clips
Not
here. Things are falling apart, and yet it sounds
Some
brilliant.
bubble gum. I got it.
Yeah. we couldn't be happier than to be doing this. No,
I'm honored.
Cincinnati, I knew they were going to clobber everybody the rest of the way, so laying 30 didn't really hurt me that much. And then I did believe it or not, I used some Segreto logic and came up with Syracuse getting 6 in their ball game, and they managed to lose in overtime by 3, so we covered there.
Look at you.
Yeah,
I love Syracuse in that game. I truly love Syracuse.
I don't know how you could love them.
I don't
know about love.
You are such a degenerate.
Love is a strong word there.
Let's put it this way.
They lost to Florida State.
I know, but they caught me up even, so I'm happy.
Oh, very nice.
No response. No response.
Yeah,
I'm not actually.
Well, I don't know. You're dealing with another bookmaker. I don't know.
Yeah, you're lying.
Category, Tony. When other guys are getting 3 points, you're getting 11. I mean, it's crazy.
I got in the Syracuse game. We're talking about 6. I got 15.
Exactly.
That's what I thought. Yeah, of course. It's like you've died and gone to heaven, and the rest of us are in there facing guys like Lipschitz every week with the usual demands. And make sure you're not late on Tuesday. It's like, shut up, Louie. You know what? I'm sick of you, and I pay every week.
Defo and Lubie love kicking it old school with the legendary Tony Segreto. Big thanks to Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
I had a couple of those oddball reversal games in my personal bookmaking venture with Francesco. I had Arizona getting 5 and a hook. How about that? You're down 20-0 at halftime. Looked like they're dead in the water. No chance that they can even come back and get within the spread. They were down 8 points late in the game. And then Josh McDaniels, who seems to be operating under a bad sign. What would you say whenever he gets a head coaching spot? First, he's cursed with Tim Tebow as his quarterback. And then with the Raiders, which seems to be a team everybody thought was going to be dynamite this year, and they may turn out to be very, very good. But wow, to blow that ball game, that was really.
I mean, you thought going in, Vegas was loaded. You thought, my gosh.
Oh, I mean, they get Devontae Adams, which
Yeah.
you thought might have even been enough to compromise Green Bay, although they looked pretty, pretty formidable in their second game. A lot better than they did in losing to the Vikings, who looked pathetic in week 2
Yeah.
after looking like
Terrible.
world beaters in week number 1. And things can turn around like that. All right, you mentioned this, and the most exciting regular season game Dolphin history had to be that 85 Bears game to preserve the perfect season, and it turned
Can
out
I
to be
weigh
the
in?
only loss.
Let me weigh in for a second. Again, people were like, people at the A&M game, and again, this is no knock. Wow, how loud. It was loud. That 85 game was louder. It was.
Oh, that was great.
louder.
I was there. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. It was louder than the 107,000 people, and it may have been the configuration of the field. It may have been the rocking of
the structure
stadium.
of the stadium being
That may
very
have had something to
suspect.
do with
Also
it,
had a
but
lot to do with it.
There was more. There was and there was just more noise in that game than on Saturday night. It was remarkable.
It was great.
It was just.
And you called it too on TV. Everybody thought you were just being a shill, when you
and
said
you know what
the-
else was? This wasn't a Dolphin game. It was a magical night of the Orange Bowl. Was when Miami beat Nebraska. That was another one of those.
Another one too. Yeah,
that was one of those loud games. But in terms of, listen, I'm not going to minimize what happened on Sunday. I thought it was classic, and I love McDaniel's attitude and approach. I just love his entire demeanor. But it was exciting. It was great. But man, oh man, that first of all, you have to understand. You had the characters. You had the players. 13 just was electric. No matter what he did, he was electric. And then you couple in the legendary players that we had. It was a remarkable night. So yeah, that was to me the most iconic Dolphins game I can recall.
The Bills, I believe, were favored by 4.5. It might be higher now because
5.5 yesterday.
It went to 5.5 after the performance they had on Monday night, and the line right now is still 5.5. So what do you think? Which way are you going, Tony Segreto, on this ball game? Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins.
Can I tell you something? I don't know. My heart wants to go with the Dolphins. My heart just really wants to go with the Dolphins.
That would be something. Yeah.
My pragmatic side says, man, Buffalo. I don't know how you beat. I don't know how you beat this team right now. I really don't. And this is no shot on the Dolphins or McDaniel or what we're doing. I mean, my heart again. It's going to be a tug and a pull this weekend with that because your heart goes, come on. But the reality is, boy, oh boy. If
you would not step out on the high dive platform springboard there.
Not on this one. Not on this one.
And predict, as you boldly did. People thought you were kidding, Tony. When you were saying, I like the Dolphins to beat the Bears tonight. And we were like, come on, Tony. I mean, I know you're close with Shula and everything. Yeah.
Our joke, though.
You stuck with your conviction, and you turned out to be right, which, as much as you wanted to believe when you were a Dolphin fan at the time that was going to happen, and I was really excited by that team, but I didn't think they could do it. I really didn't.
But that was a much different time then. I had a much different.
We thought Marino was going to go out of that stadium in a body bag, man. The Bears defense was as relentless as
I never
any.
thought that. I thought if anybody could beat that defense, it was going to be Dan. And I had a much better feel about that team than I do this one, only because we've only seen a couple of games. And
will the public reverse and turn its back again on the Dolphins if they get blown out here?
Yeah,
if they get blown out.
Say they lose by like 2 touchdowns. All right.
If they get blown out, maybe.
Right.
But if they keep it close, again, I think this is going to have to be, coach driven, and we need to settle in. Everybody's going to be excited. We have to. I think Tua is going to be okay because he's been there before back in college. I don't know. I don't know how we match up. And right now, it's pretty hard.
Probably not well, right? I mean, the secondary is getting shredded.
I don't know
Lamar
who's
Jackson.
matching up with them. I mean, what they did last week. Holy goodness me.
Yeah.
It was
That was
remarkable.
nice. Well, it's good to feel this buzz here in town.
It is.
All right,
It's
Tony.
great to feel
Yeah.
the buzz.
We
It's
have to
great.
run. It was great, as always. I'm glad you got into that Texas Roadhouse. Now, did you actually eat with the dog, or how did that go?
No. We did not. I sent Lubie a picture. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Lubie's got the picture, but I do have to say, right.
I was
here,
wondering
public-
about the mascot's table manners. So that's all. It was going to be similar to
They're
something
very
we see out
good.
of
I
Lubie.
hear they're
back in
very
the day.
good. You know, the
Okay.
napkin around the neck, the whole thing. But I need to talk to Lubie because I forgot I'm traveling this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So maybe we can
All right, we'll
reconvene
swap it
on
around.
Thursday
All
or
right.
whatever. So
We'll figure it out.
and then we'll figure out a lunch or dinner while I'm still here.
Have to do that.
At Texas Roadhouse. Okay.
Looking forward to it. All right, my
All
friend.
right, guys. Love
Good
you.
stuff.
Love the
Tony
hour.
Segreto.
Thank you, guys.
Old school. Tony Segreto. He's sitting there with all the heavyweights, huh? Tony Segreto, it's amazing. He was the one guy in the local media that thought that the Dolphins would win that 85 game against the Bears. Now, was there an obligation to act like you really believed that they could win that game? We were on the station, the flagship station for the Dolphins radio broadcasts, doing the Don Shula show on Monday nights. Can you really go on the air and say, well, this one should be a laugher? There's no way they can stay with Chicago. So you might, have a tendency to want to, temper your comments and your enthusiasm for the fact that the Bears would easily cover whatever point spread there was, which had to be enormous in their favor that night. Dolphins were, always in there with a chance. As they had Clayton and Duper and Marino throwing a rock and pretty, consistently decent offensive line play with Sims and Richmond Webb on the left side. So I don't know. I think the Dolphins are in there with a puncher's chance in this one. A lot would have to go in their favor. Buffalo would have to be, maybe a little bit off its game, and the Dolphins would have to give some kind of continuation of what they did in the fourth quarter against the Baltimore Ravens and kind of get very aggressive and see if they couldn't put a lot of points on the board early in the game and maybe get Buffalo in a compromising position that made them, more favorable from a defensive standpoint because they knew we were going to have to pass the ball on every play. But tall order, that's for sure. We'll see what happens. All right, we'll have more discussion on that coming up next couple of days on the show. Tomorrow, Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge, Degenerate Friday. Should be a blockbuster Degenerate Friday. They've really been taking on an air of their own. We'll see you at 12 o'clock with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Mike coming off very successful. His emceeing skills, a lot of stuff has changed with Mayo.
Oh, he emceed? Oh, nice. Good for him.
No microphone, so he had to get the crowd to be quiet and everything. This was not a easily controllable situation that you were trying to talk over. Very loud in this place, Bar 25 or whatever it was in Delray Beach, Bar 25. Very nice place. Looked like a kind of place where, if you were there on a ladies' night, you might be in there with a shot, Lubie. If you were inclined to be in that game again. No, you're out.
I'm happily married.
You're
yes,
out.
I get that. Yes. I presume. So good for you.
Do you even eyeball other talent at this point? You can't admit it because Shirley might catch the show, but
she knows I'm a human. I'm just not graphic or gross about it.
Okay. So you envision yourself sleeping with other women while you're, just standing there in a bar, even though your wife is standing with you? No? Okay. Just checking.
Maybe.
We're all about transparency on the show. We met the Green-Eyed Girl also, who's a big fan of the Lunchbox show. She came out. That was a lot of fun. Nice to see some of the fans of the 89,000 following that Mike Mayo has on Let's Eat South Florida, which naturally we see that as an open opportunity to enhance what we're doing here with the show. So that was great. All right, we'll see you at 12 with Mike Mayo in the Lunchbox. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. You guys have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time as we leave you on that.
The time
9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.